7th attacks. Heidi, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Sheila.
I don't know where to begin here. What wasn't? Let's add something to what Liam told us, which is that there were flags of the Taliban there. There were people, including young children, wearing Hamas-style headbands with the Hamas slogans on them. People have been charged with a crime for that previously, so I don't know what's going to happen with those families putting those headbands on their children. I would argue that's a safeguarding issue, but we'll see what the police do with these things. Your thoughts on what you heard from Liam there, and I know you were watching it quite closely yesterday as well.
I mean, yeah, there wasn't just the chants from the stage about the IDF. They were also calling for death to America and death to Israel in Persian, so that, as a kind of way to hide it, I suppose. But we know what that means. And what do
you say it means?
It means destroying Israel and destroying America. They're anti-West in their politics and their worldview, and they were transmitting that very clearly. And, the people in the audience were responding to that as well. So what we saw was basically an anti-West rally that was in support of a regime that murdered thousands of its own people. And that's where I found the kind of rank hypocrisy from people on the stage complaining about oppression and the pigs, trying to arrest them when actually they've had quite a free reign for the past 2.5 years. And he was looking into a sea of images of an Ayatollah who ordered the murder of tens of thousands of people for exercising their basic rights to protest.
In the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the legalities of things, because there are layers here, aren't there? I mean, to me, it seems a no-brainer that you arrest people wearing a Hamas bandana because it's a prescribed organisation, plain and simple. You also look into how they're raising their children if they're, I would argue, radicalising your child into a terrorist group at that age. I mean, people might think this is ridiculous of me, but that's how I see it. So that, to me, has a sort of legal framework that you can get at and use because it's there. It's the law. What about things like, boom, boom, Tel Aviv, or even death to the IDF? Should death to the IDF be regarded as an anti-Semitic hate crime?
I mean, I don't think it should be regarded as a hate crime, even though I think these kinds of things do raise the temperature of the atmosphere in the country that do end up with Jews being targeted and hurt. We know that there's a campaign to target British Israelis who have been in the IDF or served in some capacity as a mandatory service, and that's a global campaign. But we saw a rabbi in Leeds who was hounded for going to serve his mandatory chaplaincy work in the IDF. So we know that British people are being targeted by this. But I think, do we consider those things to be reasonable political opinion, for instance? I mean, I don't want us to curtail our rights to protest at all, but there are limits to that. And I don't think that calling for violence or calling for death is actually a reasonable opinion. And I don't think that's a reasonable protest.
When I read out, and I'm saying the quote again, quote, pigs are itching to arrest, that on its own just sounds like, I'm pretty sure my brothers who are police officers probably heard that twice a week in the course of their career, But it's what precedes it that's more problematic, isn't it? Because what preceded that comment and gave it its full power was Jewish control of the world, Israeli control of the world, even down to every single one of those coppers in front of you itching to arrest us. That's anti-Semitic, plain and simple, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he weaved a whole theory about the Board of Deputies having the ear of Mark Rowley, the head of the Met Police, and not speaking to the protest organisers, which is, of course, ridiculous because they're in constant contact. So there's very little evidential basis for these kinds of accusations. But this is where anti-Semitic conspiracies are born, because they actually aren't based on any truth. They just put it out there. And you put it out there into a rally with, an audience that's susceptible to that. And I think that's extremely irresponsible at the minimum. But if it's done with intent, then we know where those things are leading. And we saw, synagogues and Jewish schools around Europe recently targeted with explosive devices from Iran, affiliated new terrorist groups that are being born now. So this is a very febrile atmosphere and a very dangerous one for the Jewish community. And we really don't need this kind of agitation and this kind of spread of hate.
And even beyond the Quds Rally at the weekend, this morning we learned that on university campuses in the UK, Jewish students are being told to get out of college accommodation by fellow students because they simply won't tolerate being with somebody who's Jewish or who's Israeli. It's just out and out racism. You wouldn't be saying, I'm sorry, I can't share a house with a black person. I'm sorry, I can't share a house with a Muslim, but can't share a house with a Jew. Then you have the story of the branch of Gales, the cafe in North London, originally an Israeli founder, and now that's being targeted. Just another example of this. What I'm trying to pin down in the conversation, not just with you, but this hour with my callers, is we have laws against some of the things we've talked about. Some of the other things we've talked about are freedom of expression, are freedom of politics and movement and what have you. But we're not stopping, I should say, the spread of the hatred, are we, here? Even by exercising the law. And that's worrying.
I think the law is a difficult weapon to wield to curtail these kinds of myths that get spread, because they do wrap them in valid political arguments or the pretense of them. So it's very difficult to address them on that level. So what we need to actually do is look at where these are being spread from and make sure that they're pushed back to the margins and the fringes of society rather than being accepted into the mainstream. And that's what we're seeing all the time is, mainstream political parties or academia or all sorts of cultural, artistic institutions embracing these sorts of conspiracies about Jews and Zionists and what we need to do is start acting on those as well. And it's not just a legal issue.
Are we just too tolerant of the dangerously intolerant?
Yeah, I mean, I think because of the conflict, people have probably, people feel sympathy for Gaza. Of course, there's, terrible suffering there, and this is a war. So there's going to be horrible things happening, and we're seeing them on our screens all the time. But what's coming along in the wake of that, because the people leading on those campaigns have a bigger agenda. So if we look at the Al-Quds, their agenda is to destroy Israel. So we're seeing, and to actually, if we look at the Iran-affiliated terrorist groups, Hezbollah, for instance, Nasrallah, the ex-leader who's now dead, he said that he quite liked, Israel collecting all the Jews in one place, because then he could kill them all more easily. So, this is not just about Israel, this is about killing Jews everywhere. And I think we need to start recognizing that when we see people talking about destroying Israel or normalizing anti-Zionism, because actually anti-Zionism is a violent ideology, and we need to start recognizing that.
When you say there about the war in Gaza and what's come in its wake, is one of the problems, but particularly for Israelis, but obviously for Jews worldwide, is that one of the things that's brought in its wake is a sort of a burning of goodwill towards the state of Israel generally. Around the world I'm talking about here. I wonder whether that's part of the issue here, how that war was waged. You're absolutely right to say there is no war that doesn't bring tragedy with it and horror. But I wonder whether we've now reached a point where we've got the cynicism of what we saw at the weekend, and worse than cynicism, but we've also got, in part, the weakening of the goodwill, the global goodwill that existed towards Israel. Would you accept there was goodwill towards Israel that's been diminished?
I mean, its enemies have been trying to destroy Israel from the moment of its inception.
I'm talking about its friends here more than its enemies.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about Britain, then Britain's always been a difficult friendship to have, even though officially we're allies. They have their own hand in what happened in that region. But, I think British people always want to cheer for the underdog, and it looks like the Gazans are the underdog in this situation, and that's a very worthwhile and honourable thing to do. But without looking at the bigger context of Israel being this very isolated, small country, the only Jewish state in the world, surrounded by enemies on all sides, that will not think twice about destroying them entirely, with Iran funding all the time and threatening to nuke them as soon as they get the weapons to do so. I think the underdog situation looks a little different, and it's much more complicated than that binary.
Different lenses to see it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Heidi, for coming on the programme. Heidi Backram, organiser of Caroline in Highgate. Hello.
Hello, Sheila. I just want to say that I think you're very, very brave, and I agree with everything you say. I'm an 80-year-old Jewish lady, and the whole thing makes me absolutely sick. I'm frightened to go out. I just go shopping, and then I come home, and I keep myself to myself.
Have you got good friends around you, Caroline?
No, I don't. Since COVID, I'm a complete loner. And I just wanted to say, I just think you're a wonderful lady. You stick up for us. And it's been going on for so long, thousands of years.
I know.
If we did everything right, it would be wrong. So I don't expect anything different.
And do you feel that the country, and by that I don't just mean people in the country, I mean the police, the state, the government, has it been sufficiently supportive or not?
I don't think so. I think the Prime Minister could do a lot more. But, I just don't know what to say. It's been like this for years anyway. I just would like to know why Jewish people are so hated. That's what I would like to know.
It's an inexplicable illness, really, isn't it, when people are gripped by it? Yeah,
it's really sick, and I feel sick to the stomach with listening about it. It's just, I don't know what to say, but I just wanted to thank you, and I listen to you most days.
Well, Caroline, I mean, my approach is to try and just be as fair as I can be. And a lot of people don't think I'm fair or getting it right, so you do, and I appreciate you saying it. But
they don't think you're fair because you stick up for the Jewish people. That's why.
My priority now with you, Caroline, if I may, is I don't like the idea of you being in Highgate on your own, too often. When you say you're a loner, do you get this off your chest with other people?
I've got two ladies from the community that phone me twice a week, and I tend to speak to them about it. One of them I speak to, but she doesn't have any answers either.
Yeah.
We're both. I mean, they're younger than me, and they just, nobody knows what to say. So.
We'll try to still have some, appreciate the good things, because there are still good things.
Yes, there are, and you're one of them. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Thank you. God bless you too. Thank you, Caroline in Highgate. This is the thing. I know there's pain on multiple sides. It isn't just a one side, is it? There's pain and there's history all over the place. But we can't look back on the last 2.5, 3 years, can we, and say that we're getting this right? I just don't think we can. You have people like Caroline, aged 80, utterly despondent about what's happening in the country, feeling unsafe, feeling she can go out only to shop and then go back home and close her door. And imagine the sort of brooding that someone in Caroline's position does. And that makes me sad to think she's doing that. But I also know there's a great deal of pain in Muslim communities as well. And there's a great deal of horror at what happened in Gaza. There's horror at what happened in Israel. And sometimes we forget this. There's mutual horror. Muslims supporting Jews, Jews supporting Muslims. That happens in Britain as well. And maybe we should be making a great deal more time to see that happening. Because the divisions have to be addressed and they have to be looked at, but we mustn't assume that's all there is. Because if that's all there is, then we're in bigger trouble than I thought. And I don't think it is all there is. Thank you, Caroline, for your call. Mo is called from Harrow.